I'm getting married very soon, and my dad wants to memorialize my late sister during the wedding, and while he had a good relationship with her and idolizes her, I did not, and he does this at every family event we go to, and I'm torn because I don't want him to mention her at all during what's supposed to be a day about me. Posted by you/don'tlookatme_ please. I know the title sounds bad. I was hoping people might be able to assess this objectively and give suggestions, especially if they've been at weddings with memorials before. Unfortunately, for me, this is a trickier situation than I'd like because of who my sister was. I'm changing small details to make it harder to identify this situation if anyone I know happens across it. My younger sister passed away last year. She was an adult, but young, and it was sudden. I don't want to go into too much detail, but she made some bad choices that contributed to her short life. She was also not well mentally. She had an extremely tumultuous relationship with my mom and me, some ups, but mostly very nasty downs, especially during years when we tried to save her from herself. On the other hand, my dad was often idealized by her, and they had a better relationship. My fiancé did not have a good relationship with her either. Her final years and death were traumatic for our whole family. It's especially impacted my dad. Since she passed, my dad has made a point of eulogizing her at every family event we've had to remember her and make sure she was present. It's always been difficult for both my mom and me because I have a lot of intense, difficult emotions surrounding her and her passing. I always cry for hours, and I end up feeling downhearted and out of sorts for days after each one of these surprise memorial events. My dad will be the officiant at our wedding. It's very soon. I only recently learned that he plans to memorialize her during the ceremony and in his toast. I really don't want him to do this, but he's extremely resistant because he doesn't want to pretend like she was never here. I will admit that it is childish for me to feel bitter about someone who is no longer here, but growing up, I had a lot of events hijacked by her causing some incident, and now it feels like it's happening again even when she's passed. If we had a better relationship, I might have been more okay with taking a moment to remember her, but my dad tends to lionize her and has a selective memory where he's forgotten everything bad. He was shocked when I said I wasn't comfortable with her being mentioned in a speech. Outside of my own baggage, my fiancé certainly doesn't want her mentioned. This is not just my side of the family event like the previous memorials. I also fear it will bring down what's supposed to be a happy time and make the guests sad or uncomfortable. I want to try to compromise with him by having my mom, he, and I wear yellow jewelry in discreet places to remember her. Yellow was her favorite color. But I'm not sure if he'd be okay with this because it's too secret. Long story short, how can I let my dad feel like we're honoring my sister's memory without upsetting my mom, my fiancé, and myself too much to enjoy the day? I'm at a loss, and it's hard for me to approach this objectively. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I'm so very sorry. This is a very complex grieving issue, and I highly recommend family group counseling to you all. Even 1 or 2 sessions could help your father understand that memorializing your sister at every event changes the mood drastically. It also, in a way, mars the specialness and joy of the new memories. There are other ways you can memorialize her. I'd recommend you, your mother, father, and any other siblings agree to something that is meaningful that you can incorporate at your wedding. My close friend had her father pass suddenly before her wedding, and she is memorializing him by small tributes such as colors in the wedding, a photo of him on a seat at the front of the wedding ceremony, and later on at the reception, a private family-only moment where they will all share a glass of his favorite drink and toast to his memory. I'd highly recommend you clearly navigate this with alternative memorializing options that are important. If your father cannot understand the significance of this wish you have and considers your own needs insignificant to his own, I would recommend removing him as officiant, selecting an alternative person, or hiring a professional. Some people in their grief feel that there is only one way or that their method of grieving is correct. Grief is complex, personalized, and unique to each person. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. Personally, if he has been memorializing her at every event since her passing, it would be surprising to me that you would expect he wouldn't do the same at your wedding. To him, it seems he is incorporating a loved one that is important into the important events. However, he needs to understand and respect that, as another commenter suggested, though this may be how he memorializes your sister, it shouldn't be his prerogative to do carte blanche at every event. Especially when it causes your mother and you significant grief and prolonged emotional reactivity for several hours or days. He is being selfish in his grieving process, and inconsiderate of others' pain and how to make new memories without your sister due to his grief. Please consider family grief counseling. Ops response. First off, thanks for your thoughtful comment, I really appreciate you taking the time. Regarding I don't know why you'd expect this to be different, tell me about it. I thought it was understood that this was not the time, but I was not clear enough, and I should have been more clear. Those other ideas sound like good things to suggest to him if he thinks the jewelry idea is too secretive. The private family event might be hard because she burned a lot of bridges with family members, so they may not be enthused, and the colors are already finalized, but maybe a photo somewhere would be enough. I'd need to clear it with my fiancé, though. I don't want this to become a thing all about my family drama. I'd like to do some kind of counseling. My excuse, I'm aware it's an excuse, is that I'm working a job where finding extra time is difficult. Just in the lead up to the wedding, I've been going to bed at 3 and waking up at 8 just to be sure I do everything I need to for work, planning. Admittedly, I fall into the trap where I think I just need to find a good time, but the time has, of course, not magically presented itself. My dad tried grief counseling briefly, but he quit after a few sessions and refuses to try again. He thought it was too impersonal. My mom and I, but especially my mom, have become his therapists instead, which is not awesome for us for the reasons you could imagine. I think convincing himself to do family counseling would be difficult. If nothing else, this is a good reminder that I need to more seriously pursue counseling for myself, even if he doesn't want to try. Commenter 2. Hi, friend. May I ask how soon is very soon? I'm thinking it may be best to get another officiant, despite the fact it would add more work to your plate last minute. You deserve to have the day you want, and for all of the focus to be on you and your fiancé. Ops response. Unfortunately, it's a matter of days. That's why I haven't just said he shouldn't officiate. Finding someone else this soon would be a bear, and the emotional turmoil of saying he can't officiate would, I think, make things even worse than letting him do the memorial speeches for a variety of reasons. He's also shown that he will just kind of do things to memorialize her even when he's not in an official position, so I think that wouldn't really stop him if he were determined. That's why I'm hoping that I can find a compromise that's less obtrusive, so he doesn't feel guilty without literally calling everyone's attention to my sister's death. Commenter 3. Respectfully, can you speak to him about how him mentioning her may be how he deals with his grief, but it is not how you are managing it? That he doesn't need to make his grief the center stage. Can you also ask him maybe not to officiate? Then at least it is not in your ceremony. It is a delicate situation, but it is you and your fiancé's day, so you need to have it your way. Ops response. My mother and I have both tried to talk about how we process grief differently, especially given how difficult our relationships with my sister were. That's part of why I wasn't expecting him to do this at this event, because he did it for my birthday, and I had to talk about how hard that was. Unfortunately, I guess I didn't make the impression that I thought I did. I don't want to ask him to step down as the officiant, because I think that would really hurt him and cause more problems than just letting this happen. I just hope I could find some compromise that allows him to feel like he's not forgetting about his other daughter, without making me too depressed to be a good wife to my fiancé or hostess to my guests. It really messes with me when I think about her death too much. Commenter 4. So you have to sacrifice what should be a happy day to appease your father? Do you hear yourself? You really should rethink having your dad officiate your wedding. Ops response. Yeah, the more I've thought of it since leaving this comment and post, the more I realize it wouldn't be worth it to just let this happen. I'll need to discuss options for another officiant with my fiancé. Really hoping it won't come to that and my dad understands and agrees to not mention the death when I talk to him about it tomorrow morning, especially if I frame it as if you can't stop yourself, we can't have you officiate, but just letting him do it is not what would be best for everyone. Or really, anyone. Update 4 days later. I received a number of requests for an update to this, so here we are. It's a good update, thankfully. I spoke with my dad the morning after making the post. I tried to emphasize that mentioning my sister's passing in detail at the wedding would be very difficult emotionally for my mother and I, would take away from my fiancé's, now husband's, day, and would probably make the guests uncomfortable or saddened. He said he was resistant at first because he's been so afraid of my sister's memory fading away, but that ultimately he understood my concerns. He still wanted her present in some way that wouldn't take away from our day. I offered suggestions that people gave for ways to have her memory present. We decided to have a seat reserved for past loved ones at the ceremony, and an empty seat with a name tag for her at the wedding party's table during the reception dinner. My dad was the officiant as originally planned, and he gave a beautiful speech at the ceremony and a heartfelt toast that was focused on the joy of the day instead of the sadness of the past. As far as I'm aware, everyone at the wedding had a wonderful time and the only tears shed were happy ones. I know that there were multiple commenters who said my dad should be replaced as the officiant no matter what, but I'm glad I didn't do that. After the wedding was over, he gave me a big hug, crying because it meant so much to him that we trusted him to do the ceremony and how happy it made him to be such a big part of the wedding. It meant a lot to my husband and I, too. Moral of the story, sometimes it takes a few tries to get it right, but honest and heartfelt communication between everyone involved won the day here. Thanks again to everyone who left advice, comfort, well wishes, and grandma hugs. I did not at all anticipate the interest in my post, but I'm grateful for everyone's comments even if I ran out of time to reply to everyone. In the end, it was a perfect wedding, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I'm so happy everything worked out. I had a foot in the replace him camp, but only if he was still going to refuse to not include a long memorial speech. I'm so happy he was able to see your perspective, and was happy with your suggested alternatives for honoring your sister. I'm sure it truly meant the world to him to officiate. The reserved seat in place for her sounds perfect, and a great way for her presence to be known without it being front and center on your and your husband's day. Commenter 2. I'm glad this turned out so well, seeing his open communication with stubborn family members, who are slightly set in their ways, usually does not go well on Reddit.